Good morning. It's October 1, 2021. It's already October. And if you can believe it, it's a Friday once again.
You heard it here. You heard Mr. Lynch tell you up front. It is Friday. What day is that? That's SketchUp Live Day, everybody. And we're happy. We're excited to have you here. We can't wait to get into the show. Tyson's going to be presenting some layout stuff today, so stick around. It's going to be a fun time. It's going to be a great day. So let's get into it. Here's your host for the afternoon, Mr. Tyson Karchner.
Nobody can live up to that. Aaron might be able to, but I can't live up to that. Wow!
I think you'll do great.
Was that the entire repertoire just thrown all at the beginning? Every sound effect.
Play it all at once.
Nice. Hey everybody.
So,
hello. You chilling my vibe already, Jody?
Shut up.
Hey everybody. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. We made it. Woo! Welcome back. Welcome back. And today joining you, again, I'm Tyson. We have Aaron coming in. Sweet dulcet tones on the mic over here.
Howdy.
From some faraway land up where they make cheese, I hear, is Matt.
Yay.
And then too lazy to come into the office, somewhere north of here is Jody.
I'm just finding a way to stay in my pajamas.
I'm not wearing pants, so.
Which is really awkward when you're in the office with him, but I'm getting through. I'm muscling through.
I at least
For
wore
so many
boxers.
reasons.
So, hey, if you remember a few weeks ago, we did this this swordfish model that was kind of built in a way that we could build it in real life. It was based off of this, at least for me, kind of this model that I have built previously. And so we asked, and many of you suggested that, let's show how we could take this, put it into layout, document it so that we can print it out, and actually build it. So that's what we're about today. We're going to take this model and spend some time in SketchUp prepping it up, and then take it over to layout and make it so that we can build it. All right. So I am hearing a little bit that there's some echo going on. Let's see if we can quickly.
Is it when?
Let me turn this
is it
off.
Jody?
I turned my mic off as far as.
Oh, that's why.
All right. So hopefully we've got that.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much prep you do. When it's game time, stuff goes sideways.
So.
Oh, he said the echo was fixed, but now we can't hear you. At least I can speak for myself. I don't know, Jody, can you hear them?
I can only hear you, Matt.
Okay.
You guys are
You turned off this
dead
mic.
to me.
Have fun on our own.
Okay. So.
Hey.
So
Okay,
you can
cool.
hear us now, but the our audience is getting an echo. Is that the case?
All right. We'll keep. Go ahead, and we'll hear if Steve was getting it, but he also said he logged off and back on and it was better. So
Okay. Well,
we'll see.
We'll see now.
Should be all set.
As far as where we left off, this is where we left, where we had brought in this reference, and I didn't worry about scale, and so it was larger scale, and then we had the real scale down here. When we're going to document this, we could get rid of all this. I'm just going to copy our model over to a new SketchUp. I don't want all of this baggage carried over into layout. I mean, we can turn it off it doesn't have to show up in layout, but it's just going to be simpler if we don't even have it. And a few other things for anybody who was here last time, I did do a little more modeling on this. I finished out the wheels, where these struts, or what did we call them? Wing bars.
That sounds right.
Yeah. Where they go through the wings, I did some intersect with model to show sort of where you would include those. Added a nice little torpedo because the boy in me decided this has to be a torpedo plane. It was, but so that's where we are. So we're going to copy this model, start a new file.
Nice.
And everybody has the ability to download this from the warehouse and then play along at home now, right?
I
That
can
is true.
throw it up on the warehouse right now. I did not do it previously because I'm a slacker.
That's okay. Then we get more views if people have to come back and do it again later anyhow. So
That's all about.
this is actually a question. So this comes across, or I've seen several conversations about, I'll say it that way. The idea of purpose-built SketchUp models for output, or do you just take whatever model you're working on and generate layout files from it? I think this is another one of those where there is not a single correct answer. I know I've done it both ways, where I've taken my working model with all the mess off on the side and just created a whole bunch of scenes to work from. But if you have the ability to start with a nice clean model, you have less cropping to do, you have less zooming to mess with. So it seems to me like either way would work, but I think if you have the luxury, this is probably the better way, right?
And you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because that is entirely up to, your workflow. And this is not going to be a wholesale, hey, this should work for everybody in every scenario for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It does vary. And I think there are some, and hopefully we'll remember to talk about a few of the things that might be advantageous with this or that actually are problematic. And the first thing that's problematic is if I go back to my original model and decide I want to make some changes, then I better remember to update this one.
That is true.
So we're sort of taking a snapshot in time and moving that off with that, and that makes things nice and clean for now, but it doesn't mean changes are, we better remember to make changes. So you know what, the first thing that I'm going to do, which will seem but I'm going to create a new style so that we can document. And I've got a couple in here that we could use, but let's just go through the process of creating a new one. So I'm let me go back to the house. I've actually created several. So we'll call this print template style or something. And let's turn the axis off. We don't need that when we're taking it out. Let's turn the background back to white. And I think make it just plain line style. And finally, instead of full black lines, maybe I'll just make these sort of a dark gray. Personal preference, whatever's you think looks interesting. And remember to refresh this so we save it. And with that, so what I hope we're going to get to today is 3 methods that we could do with this. The first one's going to be very simple. Second one's a little more involved. And the third is we're going to actually go through the process of creating templates that we could use on other models. But the first thing that we can do with this, I've seen this request and it makes complete sense. In fact, we may be able to do this in the SketchUp shop, the web version, pro web version. But essentially say we want to just, okay, I built this. I'm not going to do anything but share it just for myself. I want a really easy, I just want full size printout of this. So I'm just going to go top view, turn perspective off, which for me is a keyboard shortcut, and just draw a rectangle 8.5 by 11. That's letter size here in the US. And if you're somewhere else, then yeah, you would just do A4 or whatever your size.
Idea being that is the size of the final document you'll be printing at home to take out to the shop.
Yes, thank you.
Gotcha.
And with that, we can see that we can't situate this in any way where it would all fit on here. So now it's a matter of decision to say, okay, well, where do we want to split it? And maybe something like this would work fine. So we need 3 pages, and we could print this out at full size. And while we're here, let's just take 2 of these and rotate them up so that we can get a side view as well. Yeah, something like that. Although these ones, let's bring those down. Okay. And okay, that's it. Let's just come in here, and we only need to set up 1 scene for this top view. We could set up 3 for each page, but we can get by with 1. So this is the top view. And this is the side view. I'm going to save the model. Ooh, 14 minutes in. That's might be my earliest save ever.
Better late than redoing what you did for the last hour.
It's not too late.
It's never too late to save. Well, no, actually, that is totally an untrue statement. Sometimes it is too late to save.
It can be. I'm setting these pages up in a landscape format and this other one up in a portrait. That's not going to matter, but it's one thing that we may, in fact, let's just check, does it make more sense for us to put this sideways? We'd still have to clip it somewhere here, but if we wanted to, same thing. And one other consideration, because there will be not based on the layout, how it will output, but because of the printer, most printers are going to have that little bit of a gap on the side, right, where you can't print full bleed edges. So if you wanted to overlap this just a little bit to capture that, we could do something like that too. I won't worry about that from the top, but on this side, we can show how to, we could do something like that. But anyway, save it. Let's send it to layout here with this simple button.
Oh, audio just got really intense there.
What's that?
We just went to layout. Things just get intense when that happens, Jody.
Oh, okay. That was.
Bring the intensity. Oh, also, I was watching TV last night and I saw this thing come up. I wonder if you guys can help me out with this question here, or well, whatever it is. Here, you'll hear it.
The 2D documentation and presentation tool from the creators of SketchUp.
You saw it on TV?
Is that on Jeopardy?
Wow.
You even answered in the form of a question.
Yeah, that was a great question. I don't know if it was the right question for the.
Wait, you
For the
really
answer.
saw that?
No, not really.
That's a really
He's
good
got a
Alex
cool-
Trebek.
He got a cool thing this week that lets him do really sweet, realistic voice work.
All the AI these days, it's taking over.
Yeah, it is.
I still prefer authentic, like real. What am I trying to say? Natural intelligence.
Sometimes it's hard to find, Jody.
No comment, man.
I'm just going to bring this grid icon up so that I can see my grid and snap to it. Now, because my page size and layout, you can change that under document setup, but I should be at 11.8.5. That's where I need to be. So here, I just want to grab this, move it to the corner here, and that should allow me, if I turn on, right click, turn on grid snap, to snap 2 grid points, and I can get it exactly there. Just to close it up on the page, this shouldn't be necessary, but we can. Right now, I can't zoom out any farther than you see right here. Now, I think the last time we talked about layout, I may have shown this tip or not, but essentially, I'm trying to grab the edge of this, of our model space here, and I can't zoom out far enough to do it. I don't think that this is an issue on Windows machines, but on Mac machines, there's something about how it's built in. I don't know what it is. This is a kind of convoluted workaround, but it does work. When you want to zoom out farther than you can, you need to create a piece of geometry. In this case, we'll create a circle larger than your canvas, cut it, paste it back in, and then zoom extents, and it will widen it out. There's a limit to how big you can actually go. But if I make this, and then I move it over, and then I keep scaling it, say from about the middle, then I'm gonna cut it, paste it, and then zoom extents. I can get farther out. It's convoluted, but it's not that hard to do, and it's just one of those things that if you run into it, just that can be helpful.
Also, Dave in the comments, you got Dave R over here, layout maestro, but he suggested turning off the background as well.
You are correct, Dave. So what Dave is referring to, and this is a good thing to start from the beginning rather than later on. So thank you, sir. Under the SketchUp model here, let's expand this out. Under style, if we turn background off, we can see that grid through there. That will help, especially as we start overlaying a few views. So here's one page. Let's see, where's our pages here? As we move forward, we're going to set up layers in layout and pages, and we'll set things up a little more. But again, this was just the simple brute force method of I just need some real full-size orthographic views of this. So I'm going to duplicate this page. At this time, I don't even have to worry. As long as I have a direct connection as far as they are on the same page, not on the same page, on the same level. When I print these out, I can just stick the pages exactly. And so I've got one here. And again, if you want to close it down, just because you want to, that's optional. And let's do this again. Let's duplicate this. This time we're going to take and go back to the SketchUp model and side view. We're going to say top view. And in this case, before I actually size this down, I'm going to scale this out so I can see all of my pages, the full size of all of them. And from here, I'm going to duplicate this page 2 more times. So duplicate it. And then on each page, I'll go in, move this to a corner and snap it to the corner grid. So that's one.
So this process, I mean, just to reiterate, this is the process we do if we wanted to do a specific scale output for something and we were limited on page size. Like we could only, in this case, do 8.5 by 11s.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that this is useful for, so now we've got 5 pages, we send them to the printer. This is also the process where you really know what this is. You don't need a lot of extra information.
Right.
And so all you need is some full scale references. And so I've got the tail, I've got the wings. I might go in here and pick the SketchUp model and choose a different style so I can see through to that bottom wing. So in model, let's see, let's pick, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, and I've lost the body of the fuselage, so I will just duplicate that page and then make one of them back to the standard style that we had. But something like that, where you don't need a lot of information other than full-size printouts, and you'd rather not have to explode the plane out into its parts, which we're going to do next. So this is just kind of a really fast way to get you full-size references one-to-one. Again, right from the beginning, we took the scale of this and made it full-size. So this is method 1, and that's it. From here we print, and again, if you want, we'll take this view, actually go into it and turn ortho off.
So Dave R is calling out the potential alternative, which he's not arguing with you. So watch out. Tyson will throw his cup.
Dave never argues. He's a nice guy.
But no, one of the things he said, and this is an option depending on your setup too, is to print it onto, or in LayOut, make a big page, a poster size, and then use PDF export and let Acrobat break it up into smaller pieces, or your printer, or if you have a way to create those tiling outputs, which is, yes, also an option. And we're all about options here.
I love it. I love the suggestion, Dave. Thank you.
I like to think options are optional.
I hope that one makes sense. We don't need to go into it. Essentially, he's saying go to the document and make this a 40-inch wide page. You could make it a standard large size, or you could make it just any size, but whatever will fit your pages. And then, like as suggested, let Acrobat, once you've exported this as a PDF, let Acrobat break it up. So yes, good thought. Anything else? Any other thoughts, guys, before we move on to the next one?
Looking good.
Do you have to have Acrobat to be able to do this?
I don't know definitively yes or no, but I know just from my own personal experience that I rarely print out of LayOut directly. You absolutely can. I like printing out of Acrobat. I like exporting as a PDF and printing out of Acrobat. I just have better. That's just my experience. I don't know why.
Yeah, well, I know I've had different printers with different printer software in the past, and I have done let the printer, like HP software had a tiling option on one of my printers, and so it depends. Different ways of doing that. I think at this point, PDF is kind of a standard, using Acrobat for things like that.
Yeah.
But you can use that. You don't have to have Acrobat Pro. You're not needing
Nope.
the Adobe suite or any of that stuff.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Maybe.
So correct us out there if we're wrong.
Why don't you go ask that on the Adobe live stream for us? It's a good way to find out.
Oh, nice. I'm trying to ask a sincere question to help people, and you look at you.
I can't tell when your sarcasm is spilling out and when it's sincere.
I guess that means it's really effective. I just wanted to try and put a little drama in the Friday afternoon. That's all. Who didn't like a little drama in their Friday afternoon?
We all like a little Jody in our Friday afternoon. And if it comes with drama,
I like how Jody is synonymous with drama. Is that what you're suggesting?
in my I thought that was a given. That's just, is that just me? Jody, do you save it all?
You. It's just you.
Oh wow.
The way
Thanks,
that I talk
buddy.
to everybody else is completely different. You're
Aw,
special.
that's cute,
Okay.
you guys.
So next what we're doing here. So again, this is still kind of an approach where we're going to try to kind of fast track, just get it into layout, but get some more information than what we got previously. So what we want to do, and this is true anytime you're going to layout, is to sort of just consider what views you want in layout and then prep those up in SketchUp. You really do want to get your prep work done in SketchUp. So sit down and just think for a moment. In this case, we're going to have some perspective views, some orthographic views of the whole model, and then I want to have an exploded view, and then I want to break some of the parts out for full printout views. And we're just going to build it and push it out to layout in this one. And then in the next example, we're going to basically do the same thing, but build a template so that we could do it in future examples. By the way, while it's on my mind, I don't know, Jody, if somebody could pop it in, but since Dave is here with us, he just did a fine woodworking blog post on taking a model to layout for plans, and he creates a big sheet full of all sorts of references. It's a little bit of a different approach, so I definitely, if we can look that up and throw it up in the chat, that link, I think it's a good resource. So thanks, Dave. That was interesting to see that process.
Boom. I don't know if you have to have a membership to see it. Oh, beat me to it.
Don't think so. It's just a blog.
Did I get it? Yeah, I think I can see the whole thing.
Yep. Cool beans.
Now, I better lead with I don't know if there are like really some best practices and standards for exploded views or how to document all of this. I just do it sort of in my own way. So no promises. we guarantee mediocrity.
At the least. Or at the most.
That's right.
I don't know.
Just good enough. That's all that matters.
Yep. Now be careful. So I've got half of my wing here set up as a component. And I think for the exploded view, I'm going to just get rid of all of the wing struts. But I don't want to do that. So this is, again, this is one of the aspects of, I'm going to kind of just start breaking apart the model without a lot of care about being able to make changes. And that is one of the things, like I have my model previously where it's all set up that I can make changes, it's components. And this one I start breaking it up and it's a little bit less efficient, but it's just nicer for layout. So I'm going to take these wings, blow them up. Take this and group it or make it a component. We'll make it a component just because Dave's watching. Oh, I don't want to replace that. Okay. Okay,
so Dave's mentioning that his article was all done in architecture E, Arch E, but he also does the same process for his letter size.
Yeah. So a few things over here, we need to start creating some tags for this process. And so let's create, let's say a tag that is the whole model. Let's create one that is the exploded model. Let's create one that will be our guidelines. And let's create one that will be the parts. And one of the things that for this exploded model, we can create guidelines to help, if you've seen them, sometimes they have these lines that help you see what parts align with each other. And that's what the guidelines is for. So I'm going to draw just a rectangle here, delete, and it, because of the style I've got on, you may not be able to see it, but I'm going to delete the center surface. I'm going to select this whole thing, group it, and then actually hide. Actually, I could erase, but I'm going to hide so I can get it back if I want to, two of the edges. And then this group is going to go on my guidelines. So again, nothing too special about that now, but if we take guidelines and under the dashes, let's make them dash lines. Now you can see they're dash lines. Now, the reason I kind of like to do it this way is because I like being lazy. So I am going to come over here and just use the scale tool. Rather than drawing new rectangles or new edges, I'm just going to use the scale tool to scale this rectangle like that. And now my guidelines look like that. And I'm going to take and make a copy of this. And this is why I made it a group, because I want to be able to, each of these to be their own entity. I'll do that. And then with the scale tool and move tool, I will kind of scale this down, something like that. And again, I don't know if there's better, if we said, well, we only need one of these, then I'll just come in here and hide that edge, something like that. I'll leave them both there for now. But we would hide one up here. So I'm going to take a copy of this, move it here. And I'm holding the shift key to hide instead of erase. Hide that. And let's do that. Let me move that for a second. I do still have some leftover edges here because I like to leave center edges for reference when modeling and you have multiple pieces lined up. Again, speaking of our good friend Dave, I think he has a method where he uses very custom access points to help him do that, which is also ingenious, but I'm not so ingenious, so, I need lines. But I'm going to erase those because we don't need them now, and what we do want to see is this. Let's see if I can find our center here. This one we'll use for the wings, let's say, so we want to turn it up. And again, scale tool makes it really easy to adjust these. So I won't belabor that anymore, but that's one way to go about it as far as if you want to create some guidelines and have them connect different pieces. So there's our exploded view.
Nice.
So
Looks real nice. Real nice.
real nice. Actually,
Maybe
okay.
you could also write for fine woodworking.
What?
You'd have to talk because it's writing and you're just a talker. But
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that was fine. See? We did have Nerman mention that he likes to put those dotted lines in LayOut instead of in the model.
So thank you.
I
when we
need
go
a
to
sound clip
layout,
that says segue.
oh, okay, put a pin in it. How about that? Remind us when we go to layout, because you can do this in layout as well, and there's and it works well also. So
I mean, if you have layout, then you have SketchUp, so you could use either one.
I think, I hope it, yeah, okay. I hope I didn't just override my style. I think I created a new one. I wanted to create this basically the same style, but with X-ray turned on, and have both of those as different styles. Getting thumb mashy, and I'm messing up my on, turn X-ray on, and turn the opacity down just a little bit, something like that. Maybe you don't want the opacity so much, or maybe just, again, do what you do. You do you. Now, let me go back to now that we've broken that apart. Let's come over here, make another copy. And one of the things when you're making copies is just don't make them aligned with each other in the red or green or blue axis. On this, it won't matter because I'm not going to do a side view of the exploded view, but this whole model, we do want to have unobstructed top and side views once we turn perspective on. So just keep that in mind. Now over here, I'm going to get rid of the guidelines and kind of just basically break everything apart. So take this, move it out, take our wing. And then we just go to a top view. Again, I don't need guides over here, and I may take something like our propeller here, and rather than take a top view and a side view, in cases like this, it might just be simplest just to make a copy, put them right next to each other, so that all we're doing is messing with top views, but we're still getting what we need.
And I don't want to belabor the point, but I don't want to, because this is very important. The process you're going through as far as this output is for you personally to take this thing that you have modeled out to your shop and use your tools to make it. So this is like not necessarily the process you would go through. And I'm asking you, Tyson, to actually answer this. Is the process you'd go through if you were passing this to someone else? If you were selling plans, would this be the beginning of that process and would go further? Or would there be a different process for setup for something like that?
So I know you didn't set me up like this, but I'm going to use that opportunity to blatantly.
It's a skill.
I'm going to self-promote for a moment, but hopefully it will answer the question. Yes. So the short answer is yes. I'm just prepping this for myself, and I just need the references. I don't need notes and stuff like this. But again, as sort of like where we're headed towards is creating something where you could document it for somebody else, which is going to require really good documentation and kind of notes and instructions. So I have a personal channel and called Geeks Woodshop, and I went through the process of building not this plane, but a biplane with printed out plans. And I show how at least I approached it and built it. And part of that is I made those available, and they look like this. So anybody out, these are just available. But in this case, yeah, so I have title page and I have this sort of intro page with some notes, different views, and then orthographic views, exploded view with more notes on different pieces. Now in this case, I knew I was accompanying this with a video, so I might explain this further if that didn't exist. And yeah, so I put a lot into, and then here, okay, top side views of the main fuselage and the actual block you would cut it out of, views of the wing at full scale. So all these were meant to be printed out so that you could cut them out, use a paper template, stick it directly on your pieces of wood and cut them out directly.
So when you're doing this on your own, do you usually save?
Save.
There it is.
I don't. I stack up hundreds of models in the background. I never save.
Nice.
Untitled 1, Untitled 2, Untitled 3, Untitled 4.
Yeah.
Saving is basically a sign that you don't have faith in yourself, your computer, or your software.
Nice. Saving is for the weak. That's what I'm
That's
hearing.
right.
Sometimes, Jody, you need some adventure in your life. And when we can't get out and wrestle the lions, I just stack up models without saving.
Nice. I mean, I definitely would liken having a corrupt file or a lost file to fighting lions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
So I'm going to select all of these and move them to, or where's my entity info? Move these to parts. I'm going to select the whole model, make sure it's tagged as the whole model. And then I think, let me turn off my guidelines so I don't capture those, but otherwise we'll grab all of this and make sure that that is on the exploded model. So let's test that for a second. Whole model, parts, guidelines, exploded. And then depending on how much you want to do in layout or how much you want to do here, just come over. I will simply, where's scenes? It's right there. Let me go back and get my print style, and there's that one. The whole model, we probably could use top, side, front, and some ortho or perspective views of it. So oh, see, I did edit it. Don't do that. I'll fix that real quick.
So after you've done this session, can we do another one where you teach us how to make wheels like that in your shop?
Oh, you mean
Like
like
a field trip?
real wood wheels?
Yeah.
I have a video, Jody, on making a crokinole board.
God bless you.
I know. If you don't know
so
what that
random.
is,
I feel like you just wanted to say the word crokinole there.
I always want to say the word crokinole, but
No,
I
you
do
know,
have
I
a
understand.
purpose. In that video, I talk about actually making crokinole discs. I don't recommend it. They're not that expensive. It's so much easier to just buy a bunch than to make them. But I show you how to make them, and making wheels would be the same process. So check
Okay,
out that
nice.
crokinole video. Side fingers.
I'm disappointed when I go to Google and just search for YouTube crokinole, you're not the top result. Apparently other
Oh.
people have made videos about crokinole.
Oh man, if I get one more video on my feed about crokinole, I'm just gonna shut YouTube off.
I'm a little reluctant to
Seriously.
go into YouTube and look for crokinole because I feel like, oh,
Always crokinoling. That's YouTube.
Let's turn animation off, or scene transitions, so we can just pop between these. And one more, and then we'll jump back to layout. Here we go.
I have to say, Tyson, looking at your old crokinole video, that your new stylish do is, I don't know, it just feels a little more modern.
Oh, was I rocking some previous hairdo?
You might have been working your way towards a little faux mullet.
Ooh,
Not quite.
I wish it should have stayed with that.
Well, unfortunately, you didn't.
Hindsight's 2020.
So it was last year.
Oh, we can move past that. Okay, so we've done our setup in SketchUp. In here, we're basically, again, this is just for our personal use or somebody who we know that we don't have to create a lot of documentation around, so we're just setting this up on each page. So really, this becomes pretty easy when, does this work? Fine. Do we want a little bit of a different view? Easy peasy. And then we're just going to copy this and choose our setup from SketchUp. So under pages. Now, just to be sure, we can see, I think it is a good recommendation, again, that came up earlier, where we turn off the background. You don't have to, but when you're stacking viewports, it usually helps. So under SketchUp model, down here in styles, we want to turn off that background. If we do it before we start copying these pages, then we'll just have it done. So I did it on this page, which means I'm going to get rid of these other two.
So, a question for you, Tyson, as you do this. Have you, again, pretending this was just for you taking out your own personal shot for making, would you do this? Would you take your laptop out? Would you try, I mean, what would be some alternative options that you would consider for this? Or is this it? Is it paper or nothing for you?
I don't ever take my laptop out. I surely would bust it.
There's practical reasons for that.
I know people do. That's not a judgment call, other than on myself. I just know myself. It's paper. It's always paper. I don't always go to this this level, but I do typically print out for something like this at least full-size templates and one or two perspective views so that it just has a reference. So kind of what we're doing here is the level I will typically go to.
Okay.
This I look over here. Under the scales that we have, we've got 1:1, full size, 1:4. If I choose that, it's not playing nice.
It's okay. A little suffering makes you seem human.
Seem human. I like that. Because we know the truth.
Oh, do we? What do you know,
I
Jody?
mean, I know the truth is out there. Saw a documentary series from the 90s about that.
Yeah, you saw that documentary too?
I did.
Hold on. Tyson's doing something. Give him a sec.
I'm kind of floundering because layout is grinding, and so I am going to save, quit, and hopefully come back.
Is that because you have so much data in the model, or what's your theory here?
You know,
Dave's saying you should make a new custom scale at 1 to 2. I'm not sure why.
no, I agree with him. That's where I was trying to get to before things just stopped working. So we're gonna. Sure, we'll save you too. Actually, I obliterated the SketchUp model. I don't need to save this one. Because I stayed with that same SketchUp model and then got rid of all of this. Anyway, don't save. All right, how are we doing here? What's going on?
So I'm curious how many people, because I'm seeing some names I haven't seen lately or ever. How many people are here because it's a layout specific show versus a SketchUp show? I mean, always SketchUp show, but
A good question.
Please answer Jody, everybody.
And please, if you haven't been around before that much, if you have ideas, suggestions, or questions, throw them up there and we'll get them passed on. Okay, we're going to suffer through this. Something is going on that's kind of chugging it down a little bit, and it's not the model. The size of this is not that bad. But it might be that it's telling me I'm on 5% battery even though I'm plugged in. So if we go completely dark in a few minutes, that's a less than ideal piece of
Something. Wow, that's odd.
that is odd.
Ah, computers.
I don't know what's going on there. But we're going to keep going. So that might be what's going on, is we're just working on a lower threshold. So we're going to create a custom scale. So if for me, I wanted to create, oh my gosh, Aaron, I don't want to drag everybody through this. This is something's going.
We've been here before. This has happened. It's because I made that comment earlier about computers and I dissed everything.
nice.
You're set to raster,
So this is your
right?
fault.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I'm set to raster. While we're at it, actually, scales here. We're going to create a new scale. In the past, because of the simplicity of this model, I might have set it to vector and just had that really clean lines. It was actually Eric's recent course on layout that we talked about a few months ago. His stuff in Campus, where he actually compared the output of a regular raster to vector, and the difference is not worth it. I don't use vector anymore, almost
Wow.
for anything, because it just isn't worth it. When you turn vector on, you're going to take a performance hit, especially with large models, and I don't
Not worth
dig
it.
into that much.
Do you swap it over for output? Or just leave it in raster all the time?
I don't even swap it for output.
Huh.
It just I'm and again, I'm not printing big large sheets. Maybe at some scale it might matter when you're doing that kind of output, but definitely not for anything I'm doing.
That's interesting. Because I know in the past, what I have done is I have gone in and done a lot of my work in raster originally. And then for output, switch over to hybrid or something like that. So I don't know if, I guess I got to go look at my output and see if it was worth it. Was it really worth it?
I added one that's 6 inches equals a foot. So 1 to 2, and I'm going to add one more. Let's say that 4 inches equals a foot. And that should be 1 to 3. So if you want to add custom scales, really easy to do.
Transom is pointing out that there's some great campus material on layout.
Transom, you are right. There really is, and full credit to Eric, who's not part of our crew here, but he has created a beginner's course on layout, and then a course that goes into documenting a kind of a garage conversion scale project, and his stuff is beautiful. So go to campus, learn.sketchup.com, and check out those layout courses for some really good layout learning. This is painful.
You restarted layout, right?
I restarted layout.
You know, last time I had this issue, after a hard reset, it turned out that I had multiple operating system updates queued up. And I'm not suggesting that's where you're at, but there's usually something making this happen.
Yeah, I'm still kind of convinced it's our battery issue, and I don't know why we're not charging, and I don't know how we're going to fix that in real time.
All right. You keep doing that. I'll go grab a different charger and see if that helps.
Here, we'll try that. So under scales now, I wanted a little bit something that'll fit on this page nicer. I can try this 1 to 3 scale, or I can try the 1 to 2 scale. This 1 to 3 probably will work just fine. I know the difference between streaming. I don't know how it feels, but the lag on this is excruciating. This must be so painful.
We should stop using computers for these live streams.
I think you're right. Like, you're on to something there.
I'm definitely on something. Wait, what'd you say?
Yeah. Uh-oh.
I'm just kidding.
Will it work? Aaron went and grabbed an adapter, but of course it's just barely too short. I'm going to line this up. Now, again, what the raster view that we see here looks pretty terrible, but when you export it, it's much better, and that's why it just, yeah, I think only when you're going to large format. Thank you. We're still getting no battery charging. We'll see what happens. Only when you're going to large format do you really need to mess with that, I think. But I'm going to snap that. There's a point right there. And then I will snap that here, line these two views up, and move this down. Hold the shift key to keep it in a straight line. Move this. Over and choose our side view.
Awesome.
And we won't belabor making the rest of these pages. Obviously, we have our exploded. We can make multiple perspective views. If we go to the when you click a new scene and it doesn't seem to refresh for you, this reset all for resetting your viewport, it can get stuck on a view. So click that, and that should usually help you out there. Now this one again I would typically zoom out, use that trick I used earlier, make a big circle. But when I know that I'm just going to be building a lot of parts and zooming in on them, because I didn't set this up with scenes for each one, then I will typically make it a lot bigger before going to full scale, and then this over, and then duplicate and start duplicating the wrong page. Then on these pages, actually crop in and start making adjustments here. And not worry, because again, you can be kind of sloppy if it's just for yourself. We didn't set up side views on this one. If we needed a side view, just copy this down, and over here under top, we'll go to, let's try left. And this is where that overlap again. But so our exploded view is happening back there in the background. Thankfully, in the SketchUp model, let's see, where's our tags here? Let's just take this exploded view, turn it off, and the guidelines, turn those off. So as long as we've set up a few things in beforehand, we're still okay. If we didn't set that up beforehand, we're still okay, because we could just go back to SketchUp, assign some tags, save the model, and then refresh it in here. It's just one of those things that it's nice when you set it up first. If not,
I think that's one of the nice things that's changed over the last couple of years in layout, where it used to be, and I know Dave was a big advocate of this, really set up your stuff beforehand and then go into layout with scenes, everything already polished. And the newer versions of layout have gotten to the point where if it's not perfect, you'll be okay. You'll be able to work through it. It's still nice if you have especially a lot of specific views you want to get to, where you have templates where you use the same views over and over. That's definitely nice. But if you don't have it and you have to jump back out, it is possible.
it is. And I mean, specifically some of the things, we did not have the ability to change your tags layers back then of the SketchUp model previously. We didn't. Your styles, you could change them somewhat, but a little bit differently. A lot of that. So yeah, it is nice. You have a lot more flexibility if you didn't get it all right in SketchUp, that you can still make changes here, including what was brought up earlier, and be like, well, I forgot to set up guidelines here for this. So I might just do that here, draw a box, representing, the block that we're going to build the fuselage out of. Take that and under the shape style, make that at some sort of dashed line. And because these are one-to-one, typically you have to be careful if you're drawing anything in layout and you're working on a different scale and you're using dimensions or measurements, you want to make sure you don't mix those up. But here they'll be the same. So we can use the dimension tool and pull off either the model or the reference, but we can set some guidelines up here. Now, we could do this with an orthographic view as well, not just a side view, but that was brought up earlier. It's a good suggestion. Okay, so we're going to try. The things have kind of got a little painful for a moment. I think we're back up and running. We're going to try, let me quit out of layout for now.
I'm just going to point out, because Dave has a lot of good suggestions. He recommended throwing your power supply away because it wasn't working well. So that has nothing to do with your actual process, but obviously it was causing issues.
What?
Unless your process is getting rid of your power supply.
Well, since we
problems.
switched power supplies, you went from 2% back up to 5%, and performance seems to have improved.
Oh, I see. Could be entirely true. And yet still the battery's not charging. We have these silly Macs that switched over to USB-C only, and we have every one covered, I think you can see, and also they're extended. Anyway, I don't know. Okay, so now we're going to talk about building a template. That last part got a little. I hope that made sense as far as you just set some stuff up and then you take it into layout and then you build your pages. You're not too worried about how clean they are. Again, it's just for you. But this is if you want to actually build templates and be able to reuse them so that in the future this process goes faster, hopefully faster.
So Tiago is wanting you to further explain what you said about drawing in scale versus the viewport scale.
Oh. Okay. Give me one moment. So the question was, in layout, we drew that box. Let me bring that back up because I closed it down. So the question being, so in layout, we drew that box here. And let me show you what the difference is. So if I take this, there we go. And I make a copy. And this SketchUp viewport is at full scale, 1:1. I'm going to make it 1/2 scale. So that's what we're talking about, is if I made this box and scaled this down here, if I use the dimension tool just to show what this would be at, and I'm scaling to the box we drew in layout that we just scaled, and it is 4 11/16. Yay, imperial system. 4 11/16. If I draw that same, let me take this box and move it out of the way, and this time I'm going to draw a dimension on the SketchUp model. Now it's 9. It's basically twice the size, because we're dimensioning through to the SketchUp model. That's what the SketchUp model is, but in layout we have changed the scale of this, right? So that, just to be clear, when I have this at full scale, then I'm not worried about whether I'm dimensioning to any geometry drawn on top of it in layout. But if it's not at full scale, you have to be careful because that can happen where you've drawn something over the top and you're dimensioning to something in layout, not in SketchUp. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so we're going to save this as a different model and talk about this final, but we're going to reuse some of this stuff to speed up the process. So we are going to save as a template. Here. When we're creating a template, going back to this idea that you set things up and you need to anticipate what you're going to try and get out of layout. So when we set this up, we're going to try and anticipate, we want certain tags, we're going to start creating certain scenes. We're going to start, how do we want to build this? And I say that because if we were building this from scratch, part of the reason I created these tags, exploded, guidelines, parts, and whole, is because I knew we could use them in this example. So I was just saving us a little bit of time, but you need to create some tags to turn things on and off. Let me go back to styles and, okay, these are the same. All right. Now, I said previously, and we sort of just took the same model and broke it out here, had our exploded version over here and had our parts over here. And I said, you know, don't line them up on the green or red axis. Now we are going to do that. But we're going to set up a few things first. So I'm going to draw a, let's just say 12 by 12 rectangle. One thing, when you're creating templates like this, you kind of want to scale them to what you're doing. These are toys. You know, something like this would fine, a 12 by 12 rectangle. If you're typically drawing furniture or you're typically drawing house size projects, then you would start with a kind of a different base plate here. I don't necessarily need these lines, so just draw them. And let's copy this up vertically, kind of just as a reference. So I'm going to triple click, select it all, and make this a component. Call this something, just reference block, guide square, whatever. Call it George, if you like. And let's move this to over here somewhere.
So if you start moving stuff, is that that would mess with what you've set up in layout for this existing model now, right?
It would, except I saved this model. I did a save as.
Oh, okay. So we're actually looking at a different model than the one you just created a layout for.
Yes. So the layout model that was referenced, the SketchUp model that was referenced to the layout work we just did, I saved this out separately to break that connection.
Cool. I've just heard stories of people spending hours in layout getting their things set up and then going and moving things in the SketchUp. I personally would never do that, of course.
Of course.
But I've heard other people have that issue.
Thank goodness you've heard these stories, Aaron.
Yeah. Just pass that along for other people who haven't heard those stories and cried a little.
A friend of a friend
That's
once
right.
did this.
That's right. And it screwed my layup up. I mean, their layup up. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah, that's right. I'm creating one more tag for our reference blocks here. So I'm going to take that and make sure it is on our reference block. Now, just to keep everybody's expectations, we're going to do some setup for another 20 minutes before we get our payoff. But that's kind of the point of making templates and doing this work ahead of time, right?
That's right.
So
Mhm.
I am going to take this. I'm going to make a copy and actually array this back. So I'm going to say like 4 feet, and then I'll make, times 8, something like that. Depending on the complexity of your part, you might make a whole lot more. And I have made a template like this with 20 to 30 of these. We just don't have time to build all that out. But you'll get the idea. Okay, so we've got that, and those are our reference blocks. We are going to, I think at this point we can go ahead and lock these. But we already put them on this tag, so we can turn them on and off regardless if they're locked. And one more thing we're going to do, kind of to your friend's point, Aaron, is I'm going to create some notes for myself, because if I don't come back to this template anytime in the next 24 hours, I'm going to forget how to use it.
Solid plan. Solid plan.
So, let's see. I don't need to worry. The 10 is perfect.
Looks
I
like
don't
Dave
want
had
that
to step
extruded.
aside to pick up his kids from school, but thanks for all the insight in the chat, of course, Dave, and thanks for stopping by. We also had folks asking about like labels and dimensions that are referencing SketchUp models, and then when you change something in the model, that being reflected in the layout document. Is that something that is? How does that work?
Aaron, will you talk through that?
Yeah. We actually have a video up on our YouTube channel, Skill Builder, that talks about reconnecting. It can get frustrating. I think we've been there before. What you have to be careful of what you change versus what the label or dimension is connected to inside of layout. So like Tyson just showed, he had showed the difference in the dimension when he had it connected to the dotted box he had versus the actual geometry from the SketchUp model. And if you make a change, you may have to reconnect. So if you go update your SketchUp model, you go back in the layout and you hit update. I forget, what's the verbiage on there?
Relink or
relink? Yeah.
We'll get there,
Yeah.
actually.
So we'll see it. But reconnecting the model, and what can happen sometimes is dimensions will be connected to SketchUp geometry, and then maybe a container or a text or a line or something that's layout geometry, and then that can make it a little messy sometimes. But if you are connecting properly to that geometry, if you change it, it will ask you to update your whatever it is, whatever text it is. There's the video link. What can happen? I'm trying to remember back to the video and the specific issues we shine the light on. Things that can happen that are unexpected are things like changing a component in one location and then having it change in other locations, which messes with those dimensions or texts. So that can happen. Trying to think specifically what the issues were that caused that, but they're in that video, so you can check the video out and it'll go in a little bit more detail. But yeah, it is
Gotcha.
frustrating.
So you have to be very
empathize.
conscious about what geometry you're pulling those dimensions or tags, because it, like, even in the example from before, you kind of had two lines that were like overlapping, right? So
Right.
you have to make sure that you're referencing like the SketchUp model geometry itself in order to move when that geometry moves. Is that right?
Yeah. And they do. So layout does do its best to keep layout entities, whatever they be. Well, I'm just going to say dimensions from now on but when I say dimensions, I mean dimensions or text or labels or whatever. So if you put a dimension on some geometry and you move the geometry in your model, it will move that geometry, or it will move that dimension with the geometry, as long as that dimension is connected to that geometry. What a lot of people struggle with is they'll have different layers of entities, right? So you have some raw geometry, then you have that inside of a group, and then those groups are connected with other groups and inside of a component, and then there's a handful of components that are inside another group. That can cause issues with where those dimensions are at. So you have to be conscious there as you do those, as you put those dimensions on there. It's hard to describe some of this stuff without showing it, but yeah, that can cause some of those issues as well. So that's something else to take a look at and see what you're dimensioning to. I know it seems silly, but I know when I go in and throw in dimensions, I'm literally like clicking super fast and just adding dimensions here and there and kind of making a mess. And I don't always stop to be super conscious of what I'm connecting those dimensions to. And that's probably something I need to be better about doing specifically.
So the referencing is happening to actual geometry itself, not like the group that it's in. Is that right? Because you said like if it was like nested a bunch of times and like different components and stuff.
Yeah, you just have to be. This is one of those things. It's easy to poke around and play with it when you're actually in a model. When you're just talking about it from memory, that's why I'm struggling a little bit. But yeah, you do have to be. I don't have my laptop in front of me. I'd be playing with this off on the side, but you do have to be conscious of what you connect. Because hey, Nick just signed in. Hey, Nick, how's it going?
Hey, Nick.
Our Nick?
Yeah.
Hey.
Nick who? Making a guest appearance. We got a celebrity in the house.
That's right.
Boom.
Give him a mic. Let him do his version of save.
Yeah, so I would say take a look at that video because that was prepared content and that actually walks through with examples and you can see some of those things. But a lot of times I know what drove me to make that video was I was working on a set of plans for a project and I was constantly having to go back and relink and resync those pieces. So two things came up. Like one was how to keep that from happening so often, but the other was how to fix a problem quickly. And that's the stuff that's covered in that video. So take a look there.
And did we link into that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, it is unsatisfying to not like visually answer a question like that, but I'm glad you've got the video because essentially, I mean, one of the short synopsis is we try to link through to the SketchUp model. When you're linking through from a top-down view, you could be linking to 100 points that may be on a corner of a building and they get mixed up. It's not perfect and it can get broken, but LayOut will try to preserve your dimension strings, but it can get messed up. So I'm glad you got that. Quick recap of what's been going on while you've been talking. Thank you. That afforded me a little bit of. So as you saw, we created these reference blocks. I also just drew in some 3D text just to remind myself what pieces go where and also what tags to apply. So because we separated this out earlier, guidelines, I'd need to do that now or in future models, but this should all be my exploded model, my guidelines, my reference blocks, which also I included the tags. I'm sorry, my text, my reminder text. So this should be the whole model tag. It is. And then everything back here should be on parts. And it's warning me because I've got locked stuff selected too, which is fine. It's not going to change it. But now if I turn my reference blocks off, those are all on. And if I turn the parts off, Okay, so that's the setup that we've done here. And again, depending on how detailed you want to get and how many parts you have and how you want to break them out, you may have a whole lot more of these if you want to break them out individually. I'm grouping some of these together, not necessarily because sometimes it's how I do it, and sometimes, well, for now I'm just doing it kind of the convenience of we don't have a lot of time. So you might break out the propeller just as its own, or the engine block just as, right? So some things we're expediting here for time, but again, it's just depending on what you want to do. All right, so now that we have that set up, we're ready to set up our scenes. Meaning, I want to go back, get that style we created earlier. Let's see, not this one, this one. And I want to turn off everything but the whole model. Untagged is always on. Let's just say, just in case somebody doesn't know, if you have not worked with tags, you always draw on the untagged layer. If I were to dig into one of these pieces, this wing, you'll see that the raw geometry itself, that edge, untagged. That surface, untagged. Everything, all raw geometry goes on untagged. Some rules, and there's a lot of like components or how you use layout or something that's personal. There's not like heavy rules in SketchUp that you always have to follow. This one, I say it is. I never, ever, ever, ever,
ever.
And his sound effect, you don't ever draw off untagged. There are people out there that recommend it, and I scratch my eyeballs out.
It's probably worth, I'll put this on the list, but there are legitimate problems that arise if you do that. And it's always one of those things, you know, create a model with a problem. It's never like spur of the moment thing, but we'll create a video that shows exactly what the issues are and why you stay away from it. But yeah, it is fairly close to gospel.
Now that said, once you've grouped things into groups or components, both work, then you put those onto tags, those groups. The raw geometry stays untagged. And so our group here is then the whole model. Everything's turned off. I turn shadows on. This is going to be my hero image on the title page. So under scenes, I'm going to just get rid of all of the stuff we did before because they are linked to stuff that doesn't exist anymore. I've moved everything. Again, remember, where's you know, I said previously, we've got all this stuff lined up, but we've got it well tagged, so we're going to turn stuff off as needed. Now, so parts, guides, exploded, and reference blocks. So this is going to be my hero image, something like this. Change the style if you want, but let's create a scene. I know.
Magical.
It took us a long
I'd like
time to
to
get there.
Nominate that sound effect for the actual application.
Yeah, we need to build out the sounds of SketchUp.
And now I'm just going to do a few generic perspective views. I've turned shadows off for these. You might leave them on, personal preference. I'll just create 3 of these. And then do the same with our orthographic. Turn perspective off. Again, I've got that set to a keyboard shortcut. But if you need to see it, you can go up to camera and parallel projection and perspective. That's where you toggle those. So I've got a top view, Let's get a front view. And let's get a side view. I think I like this one with the engine going left. I don't know why.
Yeah,
Of course,
looking
we
good.
could have both.
Michael in the chat was wondering, because you have parts of the model like exploded, what would happen if you made a change or if you needed to make a change to the model?
Well, that is a great question. And again, this is one of the weaknesses of this approach, is because I preserved my sort of modeling version in a different SketchUp file. I was done, and this is sort of the documentation version, so I'm kind of blowing this up. Some of this stuff is still components. If I came in to here, you know, this wheel, and I did that, you know, now we got big wheel plane. Very cool, very cool.
Nice.
I could probably land on water.
Yeah.
Fat tire.
I turn the parts back
Good
on.
brewery for that.
But anyway, you can see that that was still a component. It would, so that change is cycled through, and maybe that's a good thing, but it's going to depend on how you have your components nested.
Right. But if you're using this technique, just try to make sure that you do all the modeling up front, and then this is just for sending it to the printer.
Ideally, yes. You really don't want to be making changes, because you can make some changes again if you've really, you know, your components and your nesting and what you're affecting. But ideally, yeah, you really don't. You wouldn't be changing the model at this point.
Well, in theory, you could have each of these things as components saved out as their own file, which you could update the reference to.
That's true too. So yeah, my personal modeling style, just because of how I kind of taught myself and learned, is that I mirror a lot and I nest a lot of things within components. And so the way that we exploded this whole wing assembly, this was all originally a component. I had to explode that. But inside there were pieces that were still components. But we're belaboring the point. But anyway, just be careful. It could work or it could break, depending on your components. Top, front, side. Okay, let's go to the exploded view. So let's turn the exploded view on.
Hey, Dave came back.
All right, kids are back.
Yay.
School's done. Happy weekend.
We'll stop dissing component-based modeling at this point then.
Oh, I was having so much fun. Your personal preference could be that you want this exploded view in perspective or purely in orthographic. I think they're typically, I love perspective. I tend to do these, even though I think typically they're done in orthographic view, but whatever your preference. So I'm going to save one view here. And I'm going to do one more view back here, exploded. And this one, I'm going to turn on that other style that's kind of transparent. Let's see, where is it? Yeah. It could be confusing, but we'll leave it as is for now. So.
Hey, your battery's all the way up to 17% now.
Thank you, Aaron. Give a shout out to Aaron who saved the day.
Oh, thank you.
My laptop's getting so hot, even typing on the keyboard is starting. Good grief. Okay. All right, we've got that. Let's go back to my other style, and let's start laying out the parts. So goodbye exploded model and guidelines, and where are, okay. Now the way that I do this, I don't ever take a view like this, right, where I'm looking down. If anything, I only take a top and a view from the side. And I've laid this out, I think, along the green axis. So if, depending on if you want to lay it out along the red axis, then just keep that in mind. The other thing is, rather than doing a top and side view, again, I may just copy this. And that way, when I take a top view here, again, turn perspective off, I don't have to set that up in layout. Doesn't give me as much flexibility because I don't have them separate where I could break them out. But again, up to you. Totally could do it both ways and have done so. So this one, let's see, that's all we need. Where's my scenes? All right, parts 1 done. Move back here, parts 2. If we need to, we could turn the reference blocks on for reference, again, as needed. That typically you need when you're setting this up, but I think we can turn those off now. You just zoom in sort of so that it kind of fills the screen. We're gonna have to do a little bit of adjustment in layout, but we're gonna get ourselves close. So something like that. So that one's done.
Tiago's asking about Dave's component workflow, and I was saying that tongue in cheek. I just want to say Dave is an advocate for modeling everything as components. So when you nest, components are in components, and everything's a component except for raw geometry, which is on untagged. A lot of people do this different ways. I personally, if my rule is if it's a thing, I make it into a component. If I'm just keeping things together near each other, like it's assembly, then I'll make it a group. But that's how I personally do it. I'm not opposed to the way Dave does it. I understand why he makes everything component. It's just sort of one of those things I've just gotten used to. So, yeah, and I think Dave knows that. I don't think I've ever actually dissed his component making advocacy. Not for real.
Well, here's your chance. Don't let it slip by.
Not gonna do it.
So now that I'm seeing you lay everything out like this, I kind of want you to actually create like a, what do they call those whenever you get like a plastic model kit, and they're all.
Or you want
connected
to
together
see him
with
put it on
plastic.
sprues and actually
Yeah. And then we'll get Aaron to cast it.
chop it all in half and hollow it out, put pegs on there to connect.
Somebody remind me to save. We just did all the work we need, and we don't want to lose at this point. Okay, so
It's not like you just reminded yourself to save.
this
Save.
is where we've been working towards, and again, depending on how you want to lay it out, and if you want to break these parts out more, you would just keep spreading these down the line. All right, let's take this to layout. I think we're ready. And we're okay, everybody. Layout's gonna work great for us, right? Our issues were over, our battery's better.
Issues are a thing of the
Back in
past.
action.
It's gonna work. All right. So let's we're creating a template. We're creating a relationship between a SketchUp file and a layout file that we can, change the SketchUp model and populate the layout file. So again, we want to just think ahead of some things we want to do. We don't have time to create all of sort of the graphics that you might overlay in here, but you would certainly do stuff like that. Again, let me just throw this in here as a reference of, let's say if I've got this background graphic of my logo and the base bar and text and call outs in certain places and notes and things. So we won't be able to obviously get to all of that, but we're going to set up the basics now.
Nice. Oh, looks like Nick had to go to class, so thanks for stopping by.
Good luck, Nick. Have a good
Godspeed.
class. But let's set up a basic framework for what we're doing. We turn grid on, get my old rectangle tool, turn grid snap on, and let's just say something like that and that. Just something for our base to hold our title. We'll create a title or a text block. And we are going to name our pages so we can use auto text to autofill this, whatever our page name is. So in layout preferences, oh, sorry, it's not there. It is in document setup is the auto text. I can't remember this, so I always come in here. I look at and I say page name. That's what I want. So I'm just going to double click, copy that reference. It's simple, but I still can't remember it. And where's our, did we lose our text block? We did. All right, where is it? I'm going to paste that. And so this will be whatever we name the page. Right now it's named page 1, but if I turn this to happy weekend, it will reflect here. So
Yay. Just while Tyson's doing that, I just want to clarify, we were talking about components and modeling only components. That is not a thing that you worry about just specifically for the stuff that Tyson's doing. It's kind of a workflow that people use throughout SketchUp. Obviously, like I said, there's so many different ways to do anything you do in SketchUp. It is an option. There's advantages throughout the modeling process, not just related to how you would create your layout document. So
I don't know if I've got any interesting fonts, so we're just going to stay with the default one. Okay.
Looks like Sebastian in the chat was here for the first time. Had to step aside, so thanks for tuning in. And yeah, the recording will be on YouTube if you want to watch the end as well. So thanks for coming by. Hope to see you next week too.
Cheers, Sebastian. As we did previously, again, a good thing to remember from the beginning, because we're going to be copying this page with the SketchUp model. So if you wanted to turn on vector rendering for that just super crisp, I mean, it is crisp. I don't think the printout version is that worth it, but do it now. What we want to do now is turn the, where's our SketchUp model? Right here. Background off. Again, I'll just, rather than doing it later. And let's drop this in, expand this out. This isn't quite framed how I like, so I will just make a slight adjustment. But here's our title page. And we're going to duplicate that. Now it's page 2, but back here we'll just call this all right. On our second page, let's just set up some perspective views. Got perspective 1, and we'll shrink that down, and then maybe copy this over here. And so we just need a couple views of our model. And you could just create the one perspective in SketchUp and in here come in and make changes like this, or like we did, we have perspective 2. See how it's not changing? And this one, let me select this one, perspective 3, didn't change, but let me reset all. Now, I want to select all of these. I'm also, by doing a cross selection, right now, I'm selecting my, my layout squares. So let me grab this, and I should have done this already, but let me do it now before I start duplicating these pages. In layout, let's create some layers. So we want to have the model. Let's have a, let's say, graphics layer, maybe a text layer, and whatever else you need, however you want to separate. So I'm going to take, these are all, go right click, move to layer, sketch a model. Hide that for a moment. Select all of this, move it to graphics, and then I'll move this one to text. So I did that partially, and now that I've moved these to the correct layer, I'm just going to select these, copy them, go back to our title page where I didn't have this set up correctly, delete and paste. In layout, paste works like paste in place. It'll go right into place, but it should have pasted with the correct layer association. So I think I've fixed my little bit of an error, or something that I should have set up right from the beginning. Page 2, turn the model back on, and now I want to lock the graphics layer. That way when I do cross selection, I can't delete that outline border. Okay, select all these, SketchUp. Let's reset all, and then they should update. Again, we won't belabor this, but switch these up as needed. And so we've got some perspective views. We'll name the page. And there we go. Next one let's create some orthographic views. We can do that. We can do the exploded model. We'll just do the ortho views. Leave these out, and let's say top. Now here we have the scales that we created earlier. I think we'll still use the 1 to 3. It will fit on this page. And as we did before, right? We're doing this the same way we did before, but this time we've been more deliberate about setting it up in SketchUp such that we can, by creating a template, we'll get more leverage out of it. This one is the front view. Like before, if we need to line this up, zooming in, moving it there, and then, okay. I just need 2 points. I could have used the edge of a wing or something else. 2 points to snap to. I probably can turn my grid snap off at this point and my grid off. Let's do that. Looking good. Let's take this one just for kicks and giggles. It is orthographic view, but there. Okay.
That's the thumbnail.
That is good looking output right there.
There we go. This is our axonometric page. Okay, so we've got this. We're doing all right. Here we go. Next page. So we're just sort of building this as we go. We could have built some of this. We could have built some of these pages in anticipation ahead of time. We can just do it this way. Either way, this one, let's see, we need our exploded view, right? And so we're going to make this one a full page. And exploded 1. Let's adjust that a little bit. Did. And duplicate that. And this one is 2. Let's reset because that one should be back here. Still going to move it just a little bit.
Had a little tip in the chat about rescaling text within text boxes. Command plus minus on Mac scales text in text boxes. So can you try that out real quick and see if it...
So just a sec.
I don't know if it's just, this is like just in layout. Is this like a Mac thing, or I don't know what it's...
Sounds like it's just a Mac thing, but expansionist. I was trying to...
Switching topics up,
right? So what are you saying?
Command plus minus changes the size of it. Maybe you have to highlight the text.
Yeah, so you can see it up here trying to do it, but if
it's pretty cool without opening the little text, dialogue thing.
That is handy because on a Mac, I should have addressed this earlier. The UI is pretty different, and your windows over here on a Mac that are floating on Windows on PC, you can dock those into the sidebar and you can create different docks. All the same menus, but you'll be docking them a little bit different, and you'd go up here through Window and do it similar to SketchUp. So, but one of the things, but because we use the Mac, so that is a good tip because you have to bring up fonts every time you want to change kind of the nature of fonts, and those aren't one of your stackable windows over here. So thank you.
Yeah, cool. Shouts to, I don't know how to pronounce your name, Jono or Yono? Jono. I don't know, but
thank you. Let's see, where were we? Where are our pages here? Exploded view 2. And again, we covered this earlier, but if we came in here and said, you know what, I just like that X-ray style better, as long as it's in the SketchUp model, we can make that change here. So let's go down to styles, and it should be in the model. Oh, too many here. So where are we looking at here? I shouldn't have done it. I can't even find it.
What's that?
I can't find the styles that are in my model that are custom. So, okay, you can in model styles. There it is. I just wasn't far enough up. So print, and I want X-ray template. So
nice. That looks cool.
All right. So back to here, pages. So next page, we've got to our full scale 1-to-1 parts. Parts number 1. Let's reset just to see if, yep, okay, we can still grab this. Now we need to check these and make sure that we are turning this to full scale. And just to, maybe we want to take this, again, sort of go in here, say, I'm double clicking to edit this view inside the model and say, okay, I want just a view kind of like this. And turn this. But because I copied it, Now I've got both of these. So again, maybe it's better just to have left it alone and create a top and side view, but in this case, we will just create a clipping mask, which will sort of get us where we want. Now that shape, if you right click and you look down here and you expect create clipping mask and it's not there, it's because they're on different layers. So we need to make sure that this line is on our SketchUp model layer. So right click, move to layer, SketchUp model. Now when I select these, right click on both of them, create clipping mask is an option. And this might be where you add some notes, add some dimensions or stuff. Part of why I like this is you don't have to add dimensions, right? This is full 1-to-1 scale, but by all means, certainly could if we need to. Let's see. Where's our pages?
Somebody had a question about the Ghost plugin not coming into layout. And because Ghost, I think, is an extension by Fredo. So you'd have to ask Fredo about why doesn't have the layout.
We
extension.
don't have extensions in layout at this point either.
There's no extensions in layout.
There are no but there's extensions that work sort of towards layout. There's extensions that will create sort of pages for you in layout and populate them. So, but yeah, I don't know either.
That would be the reason that Fredo hasn't made something an extension in layout, because we don't have extensions in layout. So
True.
That'll do it.
It really will.
Good call out.
Okay, so you guys, I'm going to set up a few more parts pages. We're going to run, I don't know, we never have a definitive timeline. We're going to run a little bit long today, at least just to show sort of what the benefit of creating this template was. You know, discuss the latest what if or something while I lay out a few pages.
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh, dang it.
No, let's talk about the only murderers in the building.
So I do have to say, you know, I think all of us agreed that Ted Lasso was a good. All of our team recommended Ted Lasso as a good show to watch, fun, uplifting, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, Only Murders in the Building is solidly just as good.
So
Yeah.
this week's episode, they didn't talk at all, which it's kind of mind blowing. Like they kept not saying anything, and I'm like, are they just going to go this whole episode without saying anything? And then they did.
One word at the
Yes,
very end, right? Doesn't Steve Martin say one thing?
God, spoilers! Why gotta spoil the ending?
Oh, sorry.
Oh gosh.
That's what I heard.
It's all excited about no dialogue at all, and then all of a sudden.
I was going to say, how is like
Just don't watch the end. You'll be
revealing
fine.
that there's no dialogue at all not the spoiler for those
Yeah.
You wouldn't understand, Tyson. Jeez.
I wouldn't. I haven't started it yet.
That's valid then.
It's valid. Speaking of Ted Lasso, today's a new episode, right?
Yeah. Hurry up, Tyson.
I thought the
Oh,
last
oh,
one was the last
good
one of the
point,
season.
good
No,
point.
No, there's one more.
it?
there is one more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird, huh?
Oh man,
Playing with my emotions.
I need to clear my calendar.
No kidding.
Or at least 1 hour of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to go through and set up all of these in the interest of time because the process is the same at this point.
Right.
We're just setting up each part scene that we created in SketchUp and associating it here.
So I find that when I go make sets of plans like this, that process is fairly redundant, where I'll create a page, copy it in the new one, pick the scene that I'm referencing, just kind of going and doing that over and over and over again. one of the things I have learned to do is to get all of my scenes made before I start naming or putting dimensions on or anything like that, because as I go through, I always find something like, ooh, I want to stick another page between here. I should show how these pieces go together. That's going to be its own page. So I try to do my broad sweeping steps one at a time. Just a thought, just something to throw out there. Think about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so as we jump through this, we definitely got like a good start. This is all in the works. There's a few more parts that we would put in here, but again, keep in mind what this looks like, because now what we're going to do, so we've got this saved. I've saved this as template toy scale. I'll close that one. Over here, let's turn a few things on again. I'm going to save this out as a different file. I definitely want to not lose the work we just did for this model, but so I'm going to save as was this new toy, something new. And I think I've got everything turned on. I'm just going to obliterate all of that stuff we just built. Yikes. Oh my goodness.
That's an obliterate sound.
That was a soft obliteration. I'm going to gently obliterate this.
With love. I kill you.
Very courteous obliteration.
Okay, so let's see. I don't have another sort of model like this, but I was perusing the warehouse for something that might quickly work, and there's a small bulldozer, small by bulldozer scale. It's not the right toy scale
Yet. We'll get there.
But let's see. I think it was this one. So, Nolly 9, thank you. Here we go. Woohoo! That is, I'm gonna kind of blow this up a little bit. All right, good. It's not quite, let's. All right, let's pretend this is a toy. And I'm just going to move it down here to the whole model, scale it down to whatever it might be, something like that. And just in case, I'm going to jump inside. I think, because we'll find out. In any case, so I'm going to take this and make this our whole model. When you pull in a new model like this, you just have to assign your tags correctly. So where's my entity info? Untagged. Whole model. Let's see if we turn that off and on. Perfect. Now let's make a copy of this back here. I'm going to explode that into sort of some more of the parts. In fact, I'm gonna blow that up again. And under tags, it's still all in groups and stuff, but I'm gonna make this the exploded model. So let's make sure that that works. This stuff didn't grab, so let me grab that. Let's group it and throw it under. And then again, we're not going to take the time to really break this out like we might, but this is our exploded view pieces kind of broken apart. Right? We get the idea.
Yeah.
All right. And same thing with, okay, now we'll take and move these back here and make those our parts tag. So let's make sure they, and same thing, we won't go into breaking these all apart, but we'll just make this one here. And if I remember correctly, because of the wings, I had this stretched out the other way. So I might just do that now. We can obviously make that change, but just so that it's set up. Oh, here's a problem though. When you keep this in mind, right, it's not a perfect brainless solution. I don't want to look down this path. And if I want a side view of this, unless I'm going to copy it, so even though I'm remembering, oh yeah, the wings went this way, maybe I should do it. Nope. In this case, we'll just have to make that adjustment in layout, because if I want a side view of that, which I probably do, but that's the idea. All right, so we will just leave this here. So we've only got 1, 2, 3 parts, but obviously we'd keep that going. And I'm going to double check. One of the things that I did when I selected everything and deleted it is I deleted my guidelines too, all the ones I had created. So I should have turned guidelines off or locked them. I can just go into the previous model we had, copy those, paste them here. They'll come in with those tags correctly, be just fine. So won't do it for now, but that's what we could do. So let's just be sure we've got the whole model. We've got parts. We've got the exploded model. And if we jump through some of these, we've got all of these scenes that are already set up, looking pretty good. So we save this. Let's remember what it is, new toy print template. And go to layout. Did I close layout? So I've got my toy scale template. I'm going to save this as something else so I don't ruin anything I've just done. All right, so now under, I think it's preferences. When I look at the, nope, must be under, I always forget what's, I forget what's under preferences and what's under document setup, but
yeah, same as model info versus job or
entity info versus
yeah, preferences, yeah, preferences and job
preferences and model info.
Model info. Oh.
So this file still references that other SketchUp model with the swordfish. I'm going to select it and say relink and choose, what did we do? This one is what we just created, open. And now the reason we did all that work setting up a template is all of our pages are already, on a good start for us. There's some, little bit of work we're going to do on each one, but we don't have to set up any of that. Again, we can just come through and make some quick adjustments. Title page done.
That is cool.
So that is sort of the long way. And again, if we're really sharing this, we'd have a lot more graphics in here, but perspective's done, axon, this may not fit here, so we may need to do an adjustment that's a little more, okay, well, let's move this over and move this down. Or we may need to rearrange these all together, but the point is that we already have our views into the SketchUp model set up, and all we ever have to do to document something at this scale is copy that SketchUp model, delete the old model, put in the new one, assign the tags, and put the pieces where they go. Then as long as we've done that, we come in here, we copy the layout file, and we relink it to the new SketchUp file, and the pages and scenes and all the other stuff is already connected for us.
Nice. Yeah, looks like Michael in the chat enjoyed that. He said that's badass. You have made his year. Yes.
Well, the key to that is having those scenes that are the same, because layout pulls scenes from SketchUp based on the name. So in yours, you had the template already created, but if you wanted to actually just any scene name, whatever it was looking for would come in. So, but that's very cool. And it's always amazing to me to watch that happen like that quick and easy,
Yeah.
And you're doing it once.
Especially if you have been doing it the slow way. Being like this is like mind blowing. It's like, oh my gosh.
That is very true.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying?
I don't know. It was really important, but I forgot it. Awesome.
Nice.
Somewhere in here is my side view. But so yeah, I don't think we need to lay this out any further. That's the idea, is that by doing some upfront work, we're hopefully saving ourselves time down the road. And it's, like I say, you have to go in, make some tweaks, but ideally, that's working. I don't know. I was going to mention one thing, and I'll throw it in right here on our axon views. No, full scale body right here. One thing that, again, if you're doing this to share, that you might consider creating is something like, where's my SketchUp model? I would have set this up earlier, sort of from the beginning, but I'll just put it here because it'll be easy. You might set up something like this where you just create, let's make this say a 10 by ½ inch, and I'm going to copy 1 inch 9 times. I basically make a scale, and I might, however fancy you want to get with it. And then on the top, I might put in centimeters and millimeters so that you can share this with anybody. But the point of this, so if I group this, and I wouldn't actually put it here, I'd put it, but I'm going to create a new scene. We might move this to parts. Or to its own tag, but essentially, let's see, where's my scenes? The point of doing this is simply because I don't know how true this still is, but different printers print slightly, you can print 100% scale, and depending on the printer you've printed to, it could be just a little bit bigger or smaller. So if you're really trying to get these parts on, what we can do is let's duplicate this, and on page 10, I don't see it yet. All I have to do is refresh the model, and now scale. And whether or not you want to include this on every page, you don't necessarily need to, because once you've dialed it in for one page, but essentially you can basically instruct somebody and that, okay, print this page, just this page out. This is something I did back here. Print just this page, and make sure that, and hold a ruler to the page and make sure that you do have accuracy. And if it's just slightly bigger or slightly smaller, then in your print dialog, you can be like, okay, print it at 101% or 100.5, just a tiny. But once you've got that dialed in, then you can print all of it, and you know that you're right. So maybe printers are better now, and that problem is doesn't happen as much, but I know it did in the past. So,
well, there's always that issue, right? Of if you scale it, the lines have width, whereas lines don't exist in the real world, right? So that's tough.
Yeah,
but you can get close. That's an opportunity for somebody to, take that responsibility in their own hands and get it right-ish.
Anyway, I think with that we can call it.
I like it. That was awesome. That was an awesome deep dive into setting up and using LayOut. And I just want to remind, so Tyson did this for a 1-to-1 scale pieces, but everything that he showed in there, with maybe a few tiny exceptions, can be done for a full-size scale model as well. So this could be done to create construction drawings as opposed to shop drawings, but yeah, all that information translates. So very cool.
Definitely, and set it up once. Once you've got your dimension styles and stuff in here, even though you'll be adjusting dimension strings or creating new ones, once you've set it up in your original one, it's so much easier just to run with that. So that's
very cool.
it. Huge thanks for everybody for sticking with us. I know there was a few pain points in there, but that's kind of the nature.
One day we won't have to be dependent on hardware, and everything will be so much better.
But otherwise, yeah, if you have other questions or stuff, let us know, and let us know in the chat. As always, please leave suggestions for future models. We typically stay in SketchUp, but although we're happy to jump over here to LayOut every now and then, mix things up. So yeah, if you have suggestions for future models. That
went really well, dude.
Yeah,
that's great.
Oh yeah, and Jody has committed to building the plane now that the plans exist. So expect to see that next week.
That's why I've been being so quiet. I've been over here with my pocket knife, whittling it up.
Well met.
Pretty much got it done.
Yeah, I got a little confused whenever it started looking like a front end loader. So my results are kind of wonky, but
so
it's got a plain body with tractor treads. So
yeah, exactly. It's got treads
and a big old dish in the front.
It's an all-terrain airplane.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Happy weekend. Have a great one.
See you guys.
Thanks.
Take care.